am on my daily walk, I should probably have a jacket on because it is raining out, but it's not cold or anything, but I'm still recovering from being sick, so I should probably have a jacket on, but I don't. But I wanted to start on the topic that I planned on talking about early in the week, but I've been under the weather, so I wasn't able to get to them. But number one that has been on my mind has been about being in toxic relationships and seeking advice from your friends, or even just seeking comfort from your friends and talking to your friends about what you're going through. I believe that people need to normalize telling their friends that they need to leave that relationship. I know that you don't always get a positive response from that person, from the person that's in the relationship. I know that you don't always get a positive response, but your friend needs to know that they are in danger. They need to know that the direction that that relationship is headed can ruin them. And I believe that people need to leave before they become the villain, because eventually you become the villain. Eventually reactive abuse happens when you are in an abusive relationship and you become the perpetrator. And so that is why it is important to leave before the situation really gets bad. When I think about experiences that I've personally gone through, and the very first time somebody came to me, it was my freshman year in college, and I was sitting on the plaza on the bench, and I was just crying my eyes out. And one of my line sisters walked up to me, and she was like, whatever it is that is happening right now, you need to walk away from it. It's not worth you sitting here crying your eyes out on this bench. You need to walk away. The second time I was in a situation that was really detrimental to my life, a friend told me, if you stay, that person has the capability of killing you. If you don't leave, you could lose your life in this situation. And I just think about those experiences that I had where friends were just honest with me and had to tell me how dangerous it was if I stayed in that situation. And even a friend told me, you know, situations like this turn into an abusive relationship. And me being in a relationship, what I had to recognize is that it was already an abusive relationship before a friend even had to tell me that that is what it was going to turn into. And one thing about emotional abuse is harder to prove than physical abuse. Look at that monster behind me. Stay away from those. Anyway, emotional abuse is harder to prove than physical abuse, but emotional abuse is more detrimental, and just as impactful as physical abuse is. And so it is very important to tell your friends that they should leave. Even if you lose that friend in the process, it is important to tell that friend that they should leave. You should never be able to look at a situation knowing where it's headed and to feel okay with being like, well, if you like it, I love it. I'm not okay with that. So I am 100% the friend that tells her friends that they need to leave a situation when it is very toxic. I am also the friend that has been in abusive relationships, toxic relationships that were headed in a direction that only led to me becoming the villain in that situation. I have been there on countless occasions. And it's not I'm not happy to say that has been my experience in multiple relationships. I have been the type of person, I'm the trial and error type of person, and I learn everything by experience instead of by learning from someone that has already been there and done that. And so now I am working on noticing the red flags in the beginning so that I don't end up in situations like that. But people need to normalize leaving relationships when they are toxic. Something that's going on right now across the news, that Keke Palmer, she had to file for a restraining order as well as sole custody for her baby because her baby daddy was physically abusing her. And you think about situations like that, and people often stay silent in abusive situations because it's a lot of layers to the abuse. There's a lot of gaslighting, there's a lot of love bombing, there's a lot of thinking that this person is supportive of you or thinking that this person is changing their behaviors. until it gets to the point where you actually have to do something about it. You have to seek legal action in order to get some type of resolution, and separate yourself and give yourself distance from that actual person. And so a lot of people are going to come out and say, well, why is she just not saying anything? And a lot of people say negative stuff like that, but there are layers to abuse, and having an attachment when it comes to a relationship it's just very difficult for that person to make a decision. So definitely normalize telling your friends that they should leave, but also it is often difficult for a person to leave at the first sign of trouble. It is often difficult for a person to leave a situation after someone tells them that they should leave, and sometimes they begin to distance themselves from you when you do take a side and take a stance for not sitting back and watching them go through a situation that is detrimental to their lives and their physical health. There was actually an interaction that I had on the internet, on TikTok, a few months back, and it was a girl talking about how her and her friend got into it because her friend was on the phone with her boyfriend at the time, and the friend said something negative, nothing negative. The friend said that she said another guy's name while her friend was on the phone, and her and the friend ended up getting into a big fight, blah blah blah. And she took this whole stance of saying that, well, I'm not going to support her cheating, blah blah whatever, which is fine. But if you have the knowledge, in her explaining the story, she said that she knew that her friend was in a toxic relationship. She had knowledge that her friend was in a toxic relationship, and a lot of times toxic relationships are abusive in some form or fashion. And so having that knowledge, and knowing that your friend is still in this relationship, you still have to protect your friend from having certain experiences. So it's not about you supporting a friend cheating, it is about making sure that your friend is safe. And I personally took the stance of, well, you were kind of wrong in this situation, because you know that this woman is on the phone with her toxic boyfriend, and you are in the background saying another man's name, which caused this friend to get into a crazy toxic argument with this toxic boyfriend. In that moment, you left her exposed. You don't know what she was going to come home to. Her and this man was living together. You don't know what she was going to go home to what was going to happen when she saw this man again. And so I am always going to be for making sure that your friend is safe, making sure that they are protected. Definitely advocate for them to leave that relationship, but definitely always check in on them, see how they're doing, make sure that they're safe. And if your friend can share their location with you, that is important as well when it comes to a friend being in a toxic relationship, because a lot of times when you're in that kind of relationship, you're isolated, or you accidentally isolate yourself. A lot of times some people can isolate the person that is being abused by having a problem with everybody that they have contact with. So having a problem with you talking to your friends, or having a problem with you spending time with your friends, can be very isolating, and you start to feel guilty about being in contact with these people that have always been a part of your life, because your partner is constantly creating issues with the people in your life. And so there are various forms of isolation. So safety first, that is my motto. It is always important to make sure that you're safe, make sure that your friend is safe at all times. But that is my take on being in an abusive, toxic relationship. It only escalates, it only gets worse, it does not get better, even though there are signs there that make you feel like, okay, this may improve, this may go in a different direction. The people on the outside looking in are there in order to not feed into the delusion that you have created based on the attachment that you have to this person, based on the emotions that you have that are connected to this person. And so I'm not one to feed into someone's illusion that this thing is going to get better, especially after being given proof that this person is abusive and they are not actively doing the work in order to improve their emotions and their behaviors and stuff like that. That is an important part of the process, but also if this is something that a person needs to improve, they need to do it outside of the relationship, because it's not worth being with someone that is abusing you. And so that is my take on it. Normalize telling your friends that they should absolutely leave those abusive, negative, toxic relationships.